Bulletproof's vision is to serve, secure, and empower the world through people and technology, one customer at a time. Bulletproof is an IT security company that specializes in the gaming and lottery space, but we also have pieces of the business that are focused on managed security services and managed services specifically. This whole company has a security background. Everything that we do on a day-to-day basis has some security component to it. Why does Bulletproof exist? We believe that everyone has the right to feel safe and secure, and our mission is to serve and protect organizations to ensure their success. Bulletproof is my little baby. I started it 23 years ago, and I'm passionate about it because the people within the company make a difference. Truly, from day one, it has been the people that have been the success for Bulletproof. We have offices in over 20 countries around the world. We started from just a few people to now we're over 300. I think customers come back to Bulletproof over and over because we care. And you go through certain interactions on a day-to-day basis with customers, and sometimes they don't always go the way you want them to. But we always, at the end of the day, make it right. And I've always said that to our teams, that if we make a wrong decision, let's fix it, and we'll do it on our dime the way it should have been done the first time. Technology changes on a day-to-day basis, and we have a team that has been able to adapt to a number of changes, obviously, in technology, and that's never going to go away.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to our virtual fireside chat. So today we will be discussing from overwhelmed to secure, rethinking your in-house cybersecurity. So today you'll be joined by myself, Christopher Sim, the Chief Technology Officer at Bulletproof. So with my new focus role on driving new technology innovation, and with my previous role around focusing on how to improve our professional services efficiencies, I've had a chance to stay at the pulse of change and really understand where our security and where our customer security pain points have been lying. And maybe I'll flip it over to Steve Duguay to introduce himself.
Yeah, so thanks, Chris. My name's Steve Duguay, and I'm the Vice President of Bulletproof's Managed Security Services. So my role is to manage the operations of our two security operations centers in North America.
Awesome, Steve. Now, let's jump right into it. So let's be clear with the audience today, right? It's the threat landscape is always getting more attacks. It's getting more. Let's call it more scarier, right? So the attacks are faster, they're smarter, they're more relentless, and ransomware isn't just locking up customers' files anymore. They're now threatening to leak sensitive data if you don't pay. So we're actually seeing more deep fake videos being used in social engineering attacks. So AI is now being used by both attackers and defenders, but more so from the attacker side. They're crafting personalized phishing emails, which we know is one of the highest entry points in cybersecurity breaches, that it's now becoming impossible to distinguish from the real thing. So with these attacks, they're not just targeting global enterprises, but mid-sized companies, schools, hospitals, municipalities. There is no vertical or industry left untouched. So what's the challenge here now? The challenge is trying to, disrupt the inevitable or prevent being attacked. So how do we respond? How do we prepare ourselves? And now, so within this world that we're living in, and we're trying to create the level of business continuity and resilience from a detection and response perspective. Steve, let me hear your thoughts on what you're seeing in the modern landscape as well from a cybersecurity perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, if we're to look at this, I think we have to take a step back, and you made a good point in that the targets have changed. In the past, it was the large organizations. Now that's not the case. I would say the smaller organizations are almost more at risk because they don't have a security team defending them. So really, as sad as it is to say, that there's no one that's safe from cyber attacks, whether it's organizations or even individuals. So what we're seeing is that there's a lot more threat. In the past, it was these nation states that were well funded. It's no longer the case. You can find information, you can download toolkits to perform these malicious actions, and even now with the power of AI, we know that there's some threat actors that use AI to help them. It's changed so much over the past few years to in the past, you would get access to an account or you get within a network and you would plan your attack for multiple days, even weeks. Now we're seeing it, an account will get compromised and within minutes, up to maybe 18 to 20 minutes, emails are starting to go out. They'll put a out of office rule in your Outlook so that when you send out the phishing emails from your email account, anyone who has an out of office, those auto office or the out of office replies will get automatically moved into a folder that you won't even notice. So while you're working on your email, there could be somebody else there sending out emails without your knowledge, and it's gotten really sophisticated. And I think the other part to keep in mind is that the big attacks, the well-funded, the ones with the most knowledge when it comes to creating cyber attacks and creating that disruption, they don't do it during business hours. They will wait if they can for 5 o'clock or 5 o'clock on a Friday when people are leaving, that they have other things on their mind, and that's where we're really seeing it more and more. That's when the big attacks happen, and it's difficult to do this yourself, do cybersecurity yourself, and have that staffing around the clock and having everyone always paying attention. So yeah, it's definitely difficult. So let's talk a little bit about real world examples when it comes to DIY failures. So Chris, what are some of the hidden areas of DIY security that's often misunderstood or underestimated, we'll say?
Okay, that's a good question, Steve. Now, I think we're seeing that a lot of companies are reaching the point where they think that, hey, let's build our own internal cybersecurity teams, right? We want more control, we want more visibility. They even are believing that they can respond faster, and that those are all valid points. It's a valid goal, but what often gets overlooked is the hidden cost to some of this. And my first point is around talent, right? Cybersecurity professionals are in high demand and they're quite expensive now. So the time to recruit, finding the right personnel, it takes time, it takes investment from your human resources, your hiring team. And that also means if you aren't hiring experienced professionals right out the gate, we're talking training, certification, building career plans so that they don't get picked up or poached within the first year of their tenure. A next valid point is around the technology stack, right? It's not just about hiring the people. Right now, you need to consider the tools that support them. And so this means you got to consider your security incident event management tool, so your SIEM, your endpoint protection tools, your vulnerability management, identity tools. The list goes on of all the different security solutions. But the point is now is many organizations, they just end up paying for overlapping tools. Or what we're seeing on the Microsoft licensing side is underutilized licensing. They're paying for the full E5 security suite that has, based on Gartner's Magic Quadrant, some of the top security solutions across those workload pillars. Going into my next point around coverage. So if we're thinking about other hidden areas, right? And you mentioned it in your previous statement, is attacks happen usually after hours. Yes, some may be picked up during the business days, but what happens when you're not thinking about the hidden cost of paying your staff that overtime or premium evening shift or on-call support? So trying to stitch those pieces together just on the cost is one aspect, but then I think I want to dive a bit more into the complexity of stitching all those pieces together, where, as mentioned, if we're thinking about the total cost of ownership, so your TCO of all the tools, now you have, 7 to 10, maybe more different security tools that you're managing, you're paying for, you're doing the training, you're making sure that your team can operationally be efficient to use those. This all takes a lot of time and a lot of investment versus Bulletproof's approach has been, we believe we're the best of the best when it comes to design, architect, deliver, implement, monitor, and respond when it comes to the Microsoft security platform. We have a breadth of certified members, many years in the industry, and we've been, helping to keep our customers safe and secure by leveraging and by providing the outsourced cybersecurity or security operations center approach. Um, so by keeping it simple and by providing that faster detection time to faster response time, we are now in a position where, understanding those costs and knowing the difference between stitching together different vendors, I think we provide a very valuable proposition for customers to consider. So I think that was a mouthful, but Steve, from your lens, when does DIY, stop being cost effective for organizations?
Um, Great question. To answer it simply, I think whenever you realize the cost of having a major security incident, they are expensive. Whether it's the cost of rebuilding your network, your environment, or even the cost of reputations. If you've had some of your customer data exfiltrated, so a lot of companies struggle to recuperate from a major cyber incident. So when you look at that, you need to take cybersecurity seriously. And whenever you do decide to take cybersecurity seriously, you realize that there's also a cost around that. If you're going to do it yourself, you're probably going to need 8 to 12 security analysts to have that around the clock coverage. And it's not just the people. You have 8 to 12 people, but you have to provide them training. You have to take into account that there's going to be turnover. If you have one person on night shift and that person needs to take the night off because they're not feeling well or whatnot, then you have to have that backup coverage. So you need a little bit of bench room. So there's pretty big cost whenever it comes to that. And that's your first line of defense. That's your security analyst handling the alerts. Well, there's also a technology piece of it, and you mentioned it. Like if your SIEM that you're using is going to be firing off incidents. So when you're receiving these incidents, what if you're receiving an incident, 10 times a day from the same alert? If your team's not knowledgeable and doesn't have the expertise, the first thing they'll do, okay, I received this alert 10 times today, probably going to get it 10 times tomorrow. They're all false positives. I'm just going to disable that rule. Well, that's not the right thing to do. You don't disable the rule. It's there for a reason. So what you really want to do is tune the rule. Make sure that that known behavior that your environment is doing, that is what you want to tune. You never want to disable rules. So again, there's a lot of knowledge that comes into it. And sometimes when you're building your own team, it takes time to build that knowledge. We're able to get it here at Bulletproof because we're not just managing one customer, we're managing hundreds of customers. So we get those alerts, we get the practice. So we're able to level up our security analysts very fast, and doing it yourself with a smaller team, less alerts, it just takes a lot more time. Um, so Chris, I've been in conferences, spoken with different companies, and I always get we already have a team doing this. So, how would you explain the value of a managed security to executives that think that their team has it covered?
No, that's a great question, Steve. And I think that the common mindset is usually our internal IT team is solid, and they believe in the capability and skilling that they have internally. And to be fair, we have to believe them. We have to give them that initial sense of, okay, we believe that you got this, but now let's talk about, are they focused? Are they resourced? Are they properly equipped to handle the growing volume, velocity, complexity of modern cybersecurity threats? So, a bit on the point that you mentioned in your last statement. I want to kind of include strategy in here, right? So yes, in a lot of internal customers, they have really skillful team members, but they may be system administrators, they may be information administrators, they may be focused on a different area other than cybersecurity. So now, if we think about the strategy, and if you think about some of those key points around focus and the tools that they're specialized in, and the mindset, that now becomes an area of change. So from our lens as a managed security provider, we are bringing the dedicated around the clock expertise, focused solely on monitoring, threat detection, rapid response, and this, you know, in terms of time and cost, right? It's not about replacing, or our message is not about replacing another organization's team. It becomes a partnership. So I hear the one side, and our response is we become an extension of your capabilities. We want to become almost like a part of your organization that you can trust, and that we're going to have that hyper focused lens to do a lot of the prevention, detection, response, activities, and we're going to be able to be experts of the tools that we're recommending to those businesses to start to leverage. So then becomes the kind of a statement where, as a managed security provider, we're always watching, we're always ready. And when your team is focused on your core business, whether you're in a certain industry, focus on healthcare and saving patients' lives, or you're an engineering plant and you need to manufacture certain products to get out to the rest of the world, we're going to be in step with you, keeping your business safe, because we're focused on the security alerts that are happening within your organization. So from that lens, Steve, what have you been hearing around, other misconceptions about managed services security providers?
Um, I mean, I think that the first thing that comes to mind is that paying for SOC services, it's expensive, and in some cases, yeah, it is not cheap. However, you have to take into account what that comes with. What are you receiving as a service? And we've been doing this for a long time here at Bulletproof, and when you think about where we started over a decade ago, our SOC, we still have some of those same people. And there's two things to keep in mind. There's knowledge, which is the understanding, you went to school, you have all the knowledge, the concepts and whatnot. And then there's the expertise. And I think the expertise is an area that's often overlooked. The expertise is the experience we've gained. I mentioned it earlier. We handle a lot of incidents. We've seen a lot of things. That really helps level up those security analysts. And that expertise is not easy to come by. And there's also a technology piece to it. The technology evolve, new features come get released. And those new features enhance your security posture. So you need to not only have security analysts at the incident level that's doing the investigations, but you also need that technology team, the ones that are, maintaining your SIEM, that are knowing what features to enable in the technology you have so you're most protected. And all these things that I'm mentioning is a different skill set. Very rarely will you find someone that has the knowledge in all those areas, and more importantly, the expertise in all those areas. And the other thing to really keep in mind is that, with Bulletproof, like, we're not an alert forwarding service. And what I mean by that is that whenever we receive incidents, we're doing a full investigation of that incident. And the only time you're going to hear from us is in two scenarios. The first scenario is if we found something malicious, we've remediated, you need to take action. We've reset someone's password, we've revoked sessions, they need to get back online, or we've isolated a device for whatever reason, and then you need to remediate that device and then bring it back online. The other scenario is if we've completed our investigation and we just don't have enough information to come to a proper conclusion, we'll need to reach out to your team and get your team's expertise of that environment, to let us know how to proceed. But outside of that, we're handling everything else. And it really allows your team, your sysadmins, your network admins, to really focus on the job that they're meant to do and allow us do the security part. And I know it's a cliche, we're an extension of your team, but it's a reality. We are your security team. And just like you would reach out to your internal teams, you can reach out to us, and ask our expertise, ask for guidance. So I think there's a lot that goes into it. Probably a good time to bring up, the return on investment. It obviously speaks for itself. So, Chris, can you share a moment where managed security clearly outperform do-it-yourself security?
No, absolutely. And yeah, and so the ROI and the time is usually two factors that customers are always trying to consider and balance. And what I would say is maybe an average. So if they're looking to build in-house, and like you've mentioned, having a solid 12 members around the clock on different shifts to be able to manage and operationalize their in-house cybersecurity, that can usually take anywhere up to a year and a half to, let's say, 3 years to fully mature and bring stability in place. Now, if you don't have that time, and or your company is not able to put that larger investment all up front, now we're talking about working with a managed security service provider. And this is where, from our lens, where we've seen customers who have gone from just a simple one aspect of the DIY, looking at changing tools, looking at replacing one of their identity tools or one of their endpoint protection tools, or even their SIEM. And during this evaluation or migration, right, they have been compromised. They've been hit with some sort of external threat. And now they're kind of backtracking, like, okay, we're only trying to go down one of these areas, but now we still need the help of an external partner to help us and to be holding our hands and to be hyper focused, which is that word again, around the ROI. So from our perspective, or from my perspective, it's, what we're seeing, the time to put in place the right security tools, the time to put in place and have the support of your managed security provider. And in most cases, when you are looking at reducing all of your third-party security tools with a unified security platform, such as the Microsoft Defender XDR suites, now you're looking at actually saving costs. So you're looking at a total cost of ownership, cost consolidation, vendor reduction. So kind of going back into now the customer can focus more on what's important for them and their business, and leverage the experience and expertise of a managed security provider. So I guess, and with those areas, Steve, is there any particular metrics that you care about from a cybersecurity perspective that correlates with ROI?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that you can look at when it comes to ROI. The first thing is the breach prevention. Again, we've talked about it earlier. A breach is the cost of it is substantial, both from a financial and reputational point of view. But there's other metrics that are important, and again, going back to the speed, we know that threat actors now don't necessarily always spend days and weeks in an environment. They can trigger off their attack in anywhere from 18 to 20 minutes. And so one of the stats that we track here is our MTTR, which is mean time to resolution. So what that means is from when the incident comes into our scene till the point that we've closed it or escalated it. At Bulletproof, our MTTR targets is 10 to 15 minutes. Less than 10, I'm getting concerned that we're going a little bit too fast on the investigations. And if we're over that 15 minutes, my concern is that our tier 1 analysts are taking too much time and they're not bringing in a tier 2 quickly enough. And those things happen. And again, it's what you get out of a MSSP. You have multiple layers that are available at all times. And if you're doing it yourself, then maybe you'll only have those senior analysts from 8 to 5, because again, they're very expensive, they're in high demand, they're probably not going to work night shifts and weekends, because again, they can go elsewhere. Well, we figured out that puzzle, and we do have that around the clock coverage of security analysts. And again, there's more to it than that. I mentioned it earlier. There's, if you're to do it yourself, there's the cost of turnover training. There's the cost of again, being efficient, the processes and everything. And it's something that's taken any MSSP a long time to get. So if you are starting up and deciding to start your own security team, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not easy to get that off the ground and being efficient right out of the gate. So one of the other examples I want to give, and I talked about tuning, and let's just use an example. If you were to deploy a SIEM, and all of a sudden you're receiving, you're an organization of, let's say, at 1,000 employees, you could be receiving anywhere from 500 to 700 incidents per month. And where an MSSP can really come into play is reducing that number with tuning processes. So we have a CAB process here. Tier 1s can submit tuning requests. And what we found is that we can reduce those 700 incidents down to 300 or maybe 275 for an organization of that size. And what that means is that we're not getting that alert fatigue. We know that every incident that comes in could be that one that is related to a breach. So they're all taken seriously, and you get that value again of keeping that breach prevention is so important. So there's a lot more that we can talk about when it comes to metrics. I think every organization has different views of it. We have our own that we stick to, and that evolves along with the nature of cybersecurity that continues to evolve. So with that said, Chris, any recap or takeaways that you can share with the audience?
No, absolutely. And yeah, I guess my closing thoughts here, just kind of wrap up, the hidden costs of DIY security, right? Just making sure that we're taking into perspective the switch of activities, that hyper-focused capability that you'd want to consider and want to have be a part of your organization, whether you do that in-house or you're looking for a managed security provider. Understanding the tool sets when it comes to building to protect against the modern threats. And then lastly, the ROI, right? It's, there's a lot of metrics that can be used. You said a really great one around MTTR, or mean time to respond, and even MTTD, mean time to detection, right? These are all very important aspects when it comes to the operational side, but as well from total cost of ownership. So TCO is also very important for customers to get the best return and the best bang for their business. So with all that being said, we're hoping that you stick around for our Q&A session. And if there's any additional questions or follow-ups, especially if you're newer to the Microsoft ecosystem and want to maybe consider a demo or kind of a art of the possible when it comes to Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Defender XDR, you can definitely reach back out to our account team, and we'll be happy to follow up with those initiatives. So with that being said, it was nice speaking with you today, Steve, on our virtual fireside chat. I hope we'll do this again soon. And for those that are listening and watching, we hope you stick around for our Q&A, and we'll be able to answer any of your top of mind questions.